A princess lived in a luxurious castle. She was only 14 years old, but she was terribly spoiled and moody. Once she came up with something for April to come, and there were spring flowers at the New Year's banquet. She issued a decree in which she announced the beginning of spring and promised to generously reward the one who brings snowdrops to the palace. In a small house on the outskirts of the city lived a stepmother with her daughter and stepdaughter. The stepdaughter was a very sweet and kind girl, and her name was Masha. The stepmother and daughter were very lazy and angry, and they hurt the poor girl in every possible way. They really wanted to receive the reward promised by the princess, but they could not think of where to get the snowdrops in winter. The old woman decided to send Masha to the forest to bring them spring flowers. The stepdaughter began to beg her stepmother to take pity on her, because it was dark and cold outside. And what kind of snowdrops can there be in winter? But the greedy old woman did not want to hear anything. She gave a larger basket and drove Masha out the door. The frozen girl was very scared in a dark forest. Suddenly, in the distance, she saw a light. She was delighted and went to meet him. It turned out that it was a large blazing fire, and 12 people were warming themselves around it. Plucking up her courage, the girl approached them and told them that the evil stepmother made her go into the forest and collect snowdrops. It turned out that it was 12 months. The brothers felt sorry for Masha, and they decided to help her. Brother April chanted a spell, and suddenly spring came in the forest and in the clearing. The snow melted, green grass appeared, snowdrops blossomed. The girl began to collect flowers and soon filled a large basket with them. Young April liked her very much, and he gave her a magic ring. If trouble happens, he must be thrown to the ground, a spell cast, and all 12 months will come to the rescue. Masha thanked them and went home. When the girl brought the snowdrops home, the stepmother and daughter were very surprised at this. Masha was very tired from the journey and immediately fell asleep soundly. Her half-sister suspected something was wrong. While the girl was sleeping, she found her magic ring and took it to herself. After waking up, the stepdaughter discovered the loss. She began to beg to return the ring, but her stepmother and daughter did not want to hear anything. Taking a basket of snowdrops, they hurried to the royal palace. In the palace there was a magnificently decorated New Year tree. But the upcoming celebration did not please the capricious princess at all. And only when the stepmother and daughter brought her a whole basket of snowdrops, the princess changed her anger to mercy. The stepmother could not clearly answer where the flowers came from, and she had to admit that her stepdaughter had collected them. The princess immediately decided to go to the meadow with snowdrops. On the way, she looked to poor Masha, so that she would show her the place where she picked flowers. The girl said she would show it, but only if the ring was returned to her. From such insolence, the princess was angry and threw away the ring. But the stepdaughter managed to cast a spell. Immediately a strong wind rose, thunder rumbled, foliage fell, and snow began to fall. Old Man January appeared before them. He invited everyone to make one wish. Out of fear, the princess wished to be in the palace as soon as possible. Masha made a wish that everything would return to its place in due time, winter in winter, summer in summer. The stepmother and her daughter were so frozen that they wanted fur coats from any fur, even from a dog. Saying this, the greedy women immediately turned into dogs. They were harnessed to a sleigh on which the princess was to get to the palace. Masha thanked the brothers for their help. They promised to turn the stepmother and her daughter back into humans, but only when they become obedient. Months gave the girl a wonderful big sled, harnessed by frisky horses. Seeing them, the princess asked for a ride to the palace. It was the first time in her life that the princess had uttered the word please. And Masha gladly agreed. Once upon a time, a king lived in a distant country. And he had 11 sons and one daughter, Eliza. The royal children lived well and carefree until their stepmother appeared in their lives. No one knew that the new queen was an evil witch. She hated the king's children, always complained about them, and dreamed of expelling them from the castle. The evil queen slandered poor children so much that soon the king himself began to believe her words. First, he sent his daughter away to be raised in a nearby village. There she was destined to live up to 15 years. The evil queen wanted to send the boys away too, but they were still too young. Therefore, the father left them in the castle. And then one day an evil sorceress made her way into the children's room and put a spell on the sons of the king. She turned them into 11 wild swans and then opened the window. And the boys who became birds flew out of the castle. Years passed, and Eliza turned 15. On this day, she returned to the palace. While waiting for the king's arrival, the girl met her stepmother, who was angry that the princess would now live in the palace. And Eliza, tired from the road, did not notice how she fell asleep. Having chosen the right moment, the queen entered the room and put a spell on the girl. Suddenly, the princess's hair became dirty and unkempt, and her face changed and darkened. At this time, the king returned to the castle. He missed his daughter and dreamed of meeting her. Entering the room, the king saw that the girl on the princess's bed was not at all like his daughter. He got angry and ordered to expel the stranger from the castle. Eliza had to spend the night in the forest. In the morning she washed in the pond, the spell was asleep, and the girl again became a beauty. Immediately she met a kind old woman. She told the princess that every evening she sees 11 swans in golden crowns by the river. Then Eliza went to the water. At sunset, swans flew there, which at that very moment turned into her brothers. They immediately recognized Princess Eliza and hugged her. The brothers told the girl that the evil stepmother had bewitched them. And now every morning they turn into swans, and at night they return to their true appearance. In the morning, the brothers turned into swans again and took Eliza with them, placing the girl in a basket of willow bark. The princess was happy to fly through the sky with her brothers. It seemed to her that it was a beautiful dream, and soon she fell asleep for real. In a dream, the fairy of the castle appeared to her, who told how you can save the brothers. Eliza had to pick some nettles and weave 11 shirts for the brothers, but not say anything, otherwise the brothers would disappear forever. The next morning, the girl began to collect nettles. The grass burned her hands, but Eliza continued to pluck it. Suddenly the girl was noticed by a handsome prince hunting nearby. He was fascinated by the beauty of the princess and went up to her to say hello.
Hello!
But Eliza remembered what the fairy said and therefore did not say a word. The prince was struck by the silence of the forest beauty, so he soon took her as his wife and took her to his castle. While spending days in the palace, the princess continued to secretly weave nettle shirts. But one day the prince's advisor saw Eliza doing this. He spread rumors that the princess was a magician at night and should have been arrested. Over time, the prince also believed that his wife was a witch. Then he ordered his soldiers to imprison the girl in prison. However, even in prison, the young princess continued to weave shirts. Finally the day came when Eliza finished sewing the last shirt. At that moment, the dungeon door opened and the princess was taken to trial. They decided to sentence the poor girl to death. And at that moment, when the judge read out the verdict, 11 swans descended from heaven. Eliza pulled shirts from under her skirt and threw them over the birds. Her brothers immediately became human. But the princess did not have enough nettles for the sleeves for the last shirt, so the younger brother had swan wings instead of arms. Then the brothers told their story. And the prince, who deeply believed in his wife's innocence, asked Eliza for forgiveness. The princess immediately forgave her husband. Finally, the brothers were free and Eliza was happy. Together they returned to the castle. The father recognized his children and for many years could not forgive himself for allowing his stepmother to deceive him. And the evil sorceress herself turned into a crow and flew away, never to return to the castle.